Boom. And there we go. We're live. Our heads are on the internet. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Vagabond Dog Industry Chats. Today's guest is the one and only Doseone. How you doing, dude?
I'm really good. It's great to see your face.
It's good to see your face. It's good to catch up. It's been a while. Like we got, let's see, last time we got to talk was like 20, 30 minutes maybe at PAX in February before everything completely.
Yeah, in a dungeon. It was like some bar dungeon, a wings
Right.
dungeon.
Right.
But it was nice. It was great to see you. It
Yeah,
was a high
likewise.
impact 30 minutes.
It's very,
Yeah,
very
we were just
good.
blabbing.
Uh,
I gotta say,
yeah.
I have been feeling this. I never thought I'd say it. I miss all of these conferences because I miss all these people.
Yep.
That we would get an excuse to be around. You know.
Yep. It's it's always a treat. Like, you pull that many creative people all together into one little box, and you're bound to have a good time with just the ideas floating about alone, whether or not the personalities mesh or not.
Yeah, the banter. Like, look, don't get me wrong. I love my cats, but the banter is just nothing like all of us in a shitty bar enjoying each other's company,
Right.
switching topics. It's great.
Yeah, it's yeah, I mean, all of that aside, we got a whole show ahead, just me and you. We're gonna catch up on all the good things, because you, sir, have had a wild year. I mean, everybody's had a wild year, but you have had a productive year, which is something that
Try.
that I am incredibly excited about whenever I see a new Dose One project coming out. But forgive me if I've missed anything, but we got Sludge Life, Disc Room, and G is for Job all dropped this year.
Yeah, and Exit the Gungeon.
And
Cape earlier in the year.
Right. Oh my God, that was also this.
It was right first thing, and there was maybe something else. But yeah, it was a really good year, and I didn't feel there was trenching, but I didn't feel in the trench necessarily. A lot of it. Well, because Sludge Life, that effort and all that happened the prior year, pretty much.
Right.
Just released this year. And then Disc Room pretty much happened from the first floor to the 10th this year. So that was a lot, but that was really cool. I was saying the other day, it's like we didn't do crunch, but it was a little bit of a super group, so the pace was worthy,
Right.
and it was cool. It was fun. I really enjoyed. Every game's different, but there was something about this room that was just like felt like everyone had an abdomen, like a ripped six pack, as what they did, right. Artistically. So it was really cool to like do a lot of work, but have it be the appropriate amount. It was interesting rebalance, and and then G is for Job is like 10 years.
Yeah.
Human Song finally happening this year, which I was a lot of things happened in the moment. It was a really good experience, and I feel like I'm understanding my new relationship to recording as art.
Okay.
And so finishing that was really healthy for that because it had time involved in it. Like it went over 10 years, so it allowed me to really understand what I wanted to do from scratch, because a lot of that shit was kind of things I've had for a million years. There's just a different feeling with respect to this year's work and something that is coming out this year that is made of many years' work.
Right.
You know.
But I mean, this isn't, I mean, as busy as the year has been in terms of releases for you, I feel like I can't go, 6 months without seeing some new dose. For 6 to 8 months, there's something new. You a hustler. There's always work coming out, whether it's game soundtracks or collab projects or, whatever. It's almost perpetual.
Yeah, I think it's for me, it's like I was the first job I ever had was like short order cook and shit, and there's something about all these pots that because everything's self-taught, and like nothing I do is ever 60-40 really effort wise. It's always 50-50 or some other, or I'm doing less. So like I always, a lot of the works that I do, um I don't there's no other way for me to like be, but it's not like I'm not really crazy cat lady in the house. Like I can tell I'm more like Project Whisperer. So
Okay.
I'm paying attention to all these things, and I actually, it's not that manic, even though I am always switching hats and changing gears with respect to like um, what I'm feeling potent in. And sometimes feeling potent is just editing and mixing and boring,
Hmm.
like it's the economies of sound. You know what I mean? So
Right.
sometimes it's that, and that's this year has been, I will say there was a massive hole in this year when COVID hit and BLM was exploding, and I was isolated where I'm at. I did not feel like art was important in a way that was actually, not to be dark, but it was like kind of the first time in my life that I really was like, huh, not
Mm,
art right now. And
really.
it hurt. It didn't hurt to say because of how much genuine mutual pain was being kicked up. But there was this moment for me where I was just literally like, yeah, no, I don't think that it's weird to say. It's not like I was abandoning my post. I was being human.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
But for
know.
the first time in my life, I literally was like, I guess basically it's like, I'm not going to do a fucking song about this. I'm not going to post about this. Like, I'm closer to an answer or some shit.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So it was a very interesting time. Uh,
I,
Magnitude was beyond art.
yeah, I think it's like that's a really like a for lack of a better term, a mature approach because like art is inherently ego, like right, and
Yeah,
it's this is all situation and shit that doesn't need ego in it right now. But I found myself going hard into the art, um,
yeah,
not necessarily for the ego, but for the distraction.
yeah. That was what Disc Room was like. Disc Room. That's why there was, you know, I'll be on it. Like we all worked super hard, in almost like a genuine sprint that wasn't painful, and it was perfect for weathering the circumstance of having to look at our phones and empathize. And like you actually, I've never seen, like if empathy were a candle, that shit was burnt 100 times over
Mhm.
in the first 3 months of what we called quarantine, or second 3 months of this year. So it was really cool to have something to just like make something of yourself with. It actually helps with a pause. It's like a genuine pause, being accountable for making whatever it is that you contribute to a greater thing. It's a pause on your inner mantras, your loops, how the world's affecting you. It even is a pause where you don't look at your phone. Technically,
Right.
it's like, and all that shit was super valid in a way that I've never actually felt. And being a workaholic, I've actually spent the majority of this year like reorganizing how I relate to my efforts and my output, kind of like catching up with myself. I was always hustling. So, like, maybe TMI, but there's this thing where I understand where I'm like, yeah, every time I go to do music or make something, I'm pretty intimidated by the opportunity until it's dope.
Right.
That's all very arbitrary, but it's always how I start. So I'm actually like, I can't be interrupted. I'm not really self conscious, but I'm not in control at the beginning. It's been interesting to sort of look at how I regard myself, and I deserve a little more credit at this point, but it's interesting that that's how, no matter how much output I have, the input aspect is always like getting in a fight after school without the aggression. But there it's very to start a thing takes. I don't know. It's never gotten fully casual, even though I have a blast or I'm stoned or whatever it is. There is like living up to the creativity. It's interesting. I'm still sort of like reestablishing how I connect to that. This year has been about like doing better work less as opposed to always fiddling and spending long hours. And like it's but I couldn't enjoy this space without all that toil because I had no technical training. All that toil is what made me feel like technically adept. So right. I guess long story short, I'm finally at a space where I'm like, I can work when I'm inspired and still keeping the same output. So it's like asking more of myself, even though I'm trying to be less of a workaholic.
Right. More in the hours you put in. Like it's like you got to make those hours count, but like you can have life outside of the constant grind of figuring it out all the time.
Yes, and also the biggest point for me at this point is that the hours I do spend, I fucking am into it. Mm-hmm. Like this is my shit. I do this thing that I absolutely enjoy. I am not packing powder in the back of bullets in a factory. I am making a goopy beat for a goopy level, you know right. what I mean? Or I'm expressing myself, So like, I think that was like a long-winded way to say it's about getting right with my intent, because this shit's a blast, So always, even at the levels I do it, it's never, it's where art meets craft. And like I was saying too, being peppy about hours of editing, like that's an art in and of itself.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, like so, there's always. I mean, but that's why it's called the art. Like art used to mean like something someone's well practiced at, right? Like the old definition right. term of it.
Look, it's craft. So
craft,
this
right?
Like, craft art argument, that I think it's expansive. It's valid. It's what it is. I've definitely seen stuff that is like labeled art with neon letters, and I'm like, that's craft. And I've seen the inverse just as often. Right. You know what I mean? So that's pretty fucking relative. But I'll be honest, and I am not necessarily this. I am a little. My favorite art all time ever, when I come across it, is things like folk art. So untrained expression that captures me, who's seen all this fucking crap and like, rubbernecked a bunch of art school and appreciates many, many things. So when I see something that is self-taught, I don't care what it is, I definitely am. That's the best. That's like, I stop and I root for humanity when I see that shit.
Yeah, because it like
has it.
It does give you a hopefulness that like, here's person is just like just slightly above eating berries in the bush on the evolutionary scale, and here we've decided to craft something without 100,000 other people in industry and everything.
Yeah. And I mean, just also being like all the poetry I adore the most, like the really good film that I enjoy, it's like a lens. Your vessel, you're in between, but that's the perfect state, and that's where when I enjoy really good art, it makes me vessel for whatever. I've been listening to Danielson Family again recently. Have you ever heard them?
No, I know nothing.
So they're like Christian family. Daniel Danielson, that's actually his rap name, but the music's insane, and their first few records are something we really listen to because it's all like home recorded or small studio recorded, super inspirational, and they sing about, it's full on like Jesus, like let him on the mountaintop, I love Jesus, but the melodies, the playing, everything is so out, you can't. It's great. there's things about because it's in the mode of music, I can accept. It's just insane. It's really a lesson for me in like what I can't appreciate in people, but I can appreciate in art somehow.
I recognize that there was a point in my life and in every artist's life that we were at that stage, you know, where we had nothing, but we didn't have the technical prowess, we didn't have the experience, we didn't have, you know, the tools, and I've had to confront the question of, well, is that gone now? Am I too good for that state anymore?
Right. You know, I think that though is so my favorite poet, Galway Kinnell, he it was like some book on, I can't remember how we heard it, but it's this interview and they're asking him about his line breaks, and he starts to say, like, it's sort of like there's a cat behind me, when it scratches the back of my hand, I break a line. So forget all that, but needless to say, there is like the tools need to not be in the way of the spark that shit works for. There are times where the spark, so for me with music making, the spark starts a thing, makes some choices in the middle that are bold or sheepish, and then shows up at the end to finish it. But the spark, there's actually a whole chunks of time where it's just tools, man. I'm just chipping away at this thing I made, making it, you know, frequencies, presence, whatever it is. Same for any medium. And then the spark does little bits. But, you know, the spark is like, it's sort of like this prima donna with no negative connotations, you know? Comes out, shines on everything, and you realize where work needs to be done. And I think there's like, you don't ever lose that if you're still working. And I think too much of, I don't know, man, it's this weird thing where later in life, the more stuff I've done, tools can't make anything feel right or be the shit, but they really can be responsible for changing the game for oneself with respect to expression, whether it's with volume or, you know, just the ability to, like, I think this is why I love video games, is like, you can get everything in them. So I can do you can have a little video that you want to put on fucking Instagram, and I can do the music and audio for it, right? And that whole video can go in a video game on a screen, scrunched up in the corner with some writing and some subtitles over it and a whole other, you know, so there is like when I got into this, I felt small in the right ways in the presence of the opportunity that indie games represent, you know. So it's really, it's the way I approach music. I was like, man, I can get anything in this 3 minutes as long as it's audible, you know. So now video games are just that plus 17 layers, including the one I adore and am natural at, you know. So it's also been a call back to learning, which not a lot of artists get. And not a lot of professionals get, actually, or craft, you know, who gets you don't kind of always get a gig that makes you learn a whole other half, or that you're a part, you know, and to adore that in a positive way, you know. Definitely grateful for that shit.
Like, it's something to constantly crave for. And like, I mean, when you were talking about the spark, I often find it's like it is this thing that shows up, right? And it inspires the creation, and then it leaves, and I spend so long just like toiling in its memory, you know, like trying to capture it as I remembered it perfectly.
And you lose it. It gets lost.
Yeah.
That's the nature of mixing music. Is like, what is this trash? I'm going to throw it out and start again. What am I doing here? But it was amazing when you started. It just
Mm-hmm.
needed something, and you started mixing, and then it becomes something. So, but yes, the same. And I also find that the spark is kind of like animals, where you have to have the right shit out for it to show up in the first place. Some of it has to, I actually think, the spark will come out with respect to how the artist is feeling. You can be dark, or you can be in a sheer creative open space. You know what I mean? Spark will show up for both. And then it needs other things. And there are certain things that are like garlic to the spark, and just put that shit away. Like specific forms of personal turmoil. You ain't writing a poem tonight. You ain't fucking coding a shader. Like it's interesting how they disable, like, and then sometimes life is at its worst, and you can sort of binge on that spark, and that is also not always there. I've had times where my life sucks and I can't really make a expression out of it that's valid. Oh, like all the beginning of this year we were referencing. There's just, I don't know.
I've sometimes found now, like, I mean, with my first game, I know for a fact that I had a strong spark, and then worked in its memory, and like I drove across town to go visit the spark as frequently as I possibly could, and like I had to like keep, because I was so unfamiliar with it, and
Right.
and it definitely made something. I'm trying to get more okay with seeing the spark, working towards its memory, and then being satisfied with whatever comes out, no matter what. And that's hard, because it doesn't always end up
Yeah.
looking like the spark that I remember, and that sometimes is a deficiency in tool. Sometimes that's just like bad memory. But sometimes
Right.
you
Right.
reach the end of a thing, and it's like the spark doesn't necessarily revisit, and you don't necessarily get a second glimpse at it to compare your version of it versus the original idea, because unless you're a meticulous like note keeper, how are you going to know?
And also, let's give credit to what a spark is, right? Probably involved in the beginning. The end doesn't really mean you got the end out of this initial brilliance that made you stick around and start to articulate whatever this spark might have been. So you're making this thing. It doesn't really mean that it gives you the ending. That's actually product of experience, knowing better, knowing less, having done this before. Like, starting and finishing things, no matter what it is. I don't care if it's friendship bracelets or I did mosaics. It's not separate. It's its own adventure. It's like function, and I think that you can like. I think there's something about. Okay, here's something too. Let's unpack this. This spark necessity is about us feeling like we're not vessel enough to like get that shit did. Like, we just had to see it once and we can go. Like Matt Damon in movies, you like show him a map and then he can go kill everyone and he doesn't need the map again. Why can't we do that? So like, after how many years can you not let that spark imprint and you're out there doing its work? And also, let's be clear, the spark it's not a biz dev doc. It doesn't have drop down tabs and fucking, it's not a diagram, so I wonder if we could give ourselves a little more, and I speak truly for myself here, give yourself a little more credit in your ability to. Have you seen The Golden Child with Eddie Murphy? He has to like not spill a glass of water while walking on all this elaborate bullshit. But I think we can navigate and get the inspired feeling to be in a reasonable state throughout an entire process. And I honestly, that's ninja level creator shit.
Right.
That is not first tier. Actually, what we're talking about is the difference between art and craft, between like career and I don't know, path.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because they're actually, I think the same way you could have an art and craft argument until the cows come home, you could do this about career and path. If you're artistic about how you approach these things, what are you meant to do and what is facilitating forward or, you know, rent.
Right.
The next thing.
The whole, like, I mean, we've both been very fortunate and in our careers, thankfully we have them.
Yeah. Yes.
In that these are artistic careers. We, you know, something went right, and I don't know. I still don't know how or what, but you know, the gratitude is always there.
Yep.
What do you think? Is it just the commitment to it that like makes that happen? Or is there some other component? Because it's just like, you know, a decision I made one day and I didn't let go, and I still haven't.
Okay, so I can really only, this is not advice. This is my life, which takes precedent for this specific question, which is that I have been working 6 to 7 days a week since I was 20. I've been dosed since I was 14, 15, you know? And it was only in the last 6 years, by integrating my abilities into games, whether they involved some rapping or didn't. Mind you, I did not make music before I rapped. All that shit. But I always wrote, the creativity was always there. That said, it is absolutely my work ethic. If I'm going to you know how like when a film wins an award and 6 people walk out and they kind of know who's going to take the award and say the first words? It's my work ethic, period. And I think that, you know, you can call that passion and artistry, but it's not actually that, you know? It was the willingness to learn tools, all this shit, make it work, whatever the fuck it was. So there's something to me that talent, if I'm really honest with myself, if I'm in front of Satan and Jesus at once and they're like, what is it? I'm like, it's just showing up all the time. Like some kind of football player, you know, it's literally like Rudy in the rain, you know, it's just like it really is all that worked. And the sad thing is that shit's not a secret. It's middle class, and that's what like 60% of my art is about, oddly, you know. But the lesson I was shown is that my talent, other people might think it's that. It's not. It really isn't, you know. It's like showing up for change, being inspirable.
Mm-hmm. The openness
across achievements. You know, I think I'll just say that most of the people I adore in the world, like that's something we definitely have in common, is they are repeat inspirees. You know, doesn't matter what the medium is, they love shit. They see something in another medium that makes them want to affect a similar thing in their medium. You know, and that's like, I don't know. That's definitely, it's maker meets appreciator. And I think that there are tiers in maker, and that is one of them.
Is understanding that why you produce so much work, or is the work just a byproduct of being that? Chicken or egg?
Yeah, man, I think it might be the understanding thing, because like I think the important thing about me that I don't get to say, and it doesn't sound right, is that I'm self-taught, so
Mm-hmm.
this should be just Wheaties without the grandiosity. It's a Wheaties box for anybody out there who's absolutely not doing anything I've done yet. You know what I mean? Try it. You could probably do it. I didn't at a point. I did not, and now I do. And that's for the
Mm-hmm.
7.5 things I think I do inspired. So it's really, I think there's something about talent is kind of willingness. Peers. Also, right now, we're talking in a latter day state for me. Like, peers are everything. So I am only at a state now at 43 that I'm getting myself right. All these things I got right artistically, I did because of the faculty of my peers and the constitution that they provided me vicariously that I did not fucking have myself. That I am still now really supplementing and fortifying in my personality and existence and feelings. These are things that I just absorbed from my friends. So where in some cases it was mostly aesthetic absorption or trying something they did, in a lot of ways too, it was like we were all chosen family and all kinds of people in all kinds of states. And we balanced each other, even though we supported polarity in the pursuit of like crazy rap expression and all this stuff. We supported each other in the day-to-day by being working examples of similar people being artistic where they would just be broken or doing it or in neutral, so I think that's the best thing about all this, everyone working from home, self-employment, computers, is that propensity goes up in the universe. Whether it's actualized in humanity, I don't know. But, I think that's really doing it yourself, being inspired, living in like somewhere in Kentucky and getting a bunch of great input. That business is more booming than it's ever been.
Right. It's the
with respect.
The value of that interconnectedness and connection to community is a net positive.
Even visibility. Yeah, I'm not even trying to have the conversation about how the internet is poisoning everyone and phones are, because I don't disagree or agree, but there really is, just with respect to
right.
Imagine an awesome young person trying to find awesome shit. Business is better than it ever was. Period.
Right.
End of conversation. If you have the privilege of being that and feeling that way. So I think it's I don't know. I was talking about this the other day. I think the music industry, which I consider myself a veteran of, but was forced to grow beyond like some tired dinosaur movie where like my plant that I used to eat isn't there anymore and now I gotta walk. That's how I found games. Luckily there was game jams and amazing people, so I didn't feel misled and I didn't feel like I was making some kind of pivot. I was just like, this is fucking crazy. These people do this. I do music. So that happened naturally, but the industry is a little more fucked than ever. I don't know what's going to happen.
With music.
Yeah, it hurts. I don't understand. And I am not going to pretend I'm well beyond experience or notion that even allows me to entertain the idea of me suggesting an outcome. I'm not sure what's going to happen. But I will say that worst case scenario is it's very bad. And we have handfuls of rich kids dictating musical tendencies for the next decade. Best case scenario is amazing. We get to like name a new kind of music. This is the only kind of significant, massive global trauma that could make the next, there was no rock and roll until there was, and hip hop. Maybe we get a fucking whole genre. We get to fucking rename. Maybe, like, dude, I'm just trying to be positive for once. You know, like, it's gonna be bedroom as fuck. It's gonna really be like, who knows what it's gonna be, but I think it will be, you know, circumstances like this can birth that kind of like Halley's Comet type shit where you get a whole fucking new form of expression, you know. I don't know. Good work. We'll see. I'm not trying to say anything to get worse, to pressure cook it, to really make that happen. It'd be a nice positive outcome.
Let's stare at the thin silver lining for a minute.
Yeah,
man. Like, on the topic of new things and trying new things and everything, I really do want to get into games writing with you.
Yeah,
dude. I mean, what is the difference for you between writing lyrics and writing like game words?
Okay, so right away, a relationship I have with game music that I don't have with my own music. Same thing with lyrics to game words, because I feel like I can get 100 for the medium. Whereas when I make my own music, I'm always like, yeah, it's done. It's August. It's been 3 Augusts. I'm gonna put this out. I'm calling it finished. It's my poetry. It's my composition. When I work on a game, I can be like, dude, that's just so the water level. I don't ever do that, but you know, I can have these moments where I'm like, wow, this is like a glass slipper, because it's not my everything. It's my part. And I found that, at least the way I feel and the way it looks to me, is like I get a more one-to-one relationship to drilling that and glass slippering the fit. So with writing for games, it's the same thing, but I can only do the games that I can do. I want to stretch. I have this weird relationship where I, of course, want to write things like Sludge Life, which is like, Terry made a dude. What's the dude gonna say? You know, and it's like, how does that relate to everything else, and what makes this interesting and natural? And then there is like a lot of types of games with types of writing that I've always wanted to like and don't, and I feel sort of compelled to take a swipe and be like, could I make a game like this that is, whether it's a fantasy game, I don't really think about army games, but you know, something that isn't a fantasy game, you know, and think about writing that in a way where I'm not really fast forwarding everything, looking for keywords regarding annex, you know. So I just sort of, to me, games, like the writing is kind of translating the purpose and code of the game, and if I can do anything that's interesting, it would be help add to writing is writing in games. That is, of course, also telling you how to buy an apple in the shop, you know. So
right. Where the game
just
you need to tell people there's zooms on in the room over there, so this guy here, because he's at the doorway.
And I struggle with this too, where I'm a less is more dude. When I'm playing a game, I actually do not want, for me, in being engaged with a lot of writing, is not my favorite space when I'm pressing B. You know what I mean? So I get this. This actually is how I want to write a game. So I want it to be to the point. I want you to be about to press B and be like, wait a minute, what are these words? And then read them, you know. So I think it's about, you know, I think I'll just be honest, there's like room to grow, I think, in writing. There are really cool examples in indie and some AAA games of like complex writing, spot on writing, funny writing, you know, but there's definitely like, now that I get it and see that it's all just a spreadsheet, and the ability to like zoom out on that and map it across a person playing in real time, it's like a really fun sociological exercise in broken informational poetry. I don't know. It's cool, man. I'm very inspired by it.
I have never had the foresight or competence to have a spreadsheet for any of my games with dialogue.
Yes.
That's something that may go away. If you ever decide to make your own Dose, the spreadsheet may go away.
May go, yes.
Like
Spreadsheet go bye-bye.
Spreadsheet go like completely bye-bye. The I mean, but does that change how you view games now? Having peered behind the curtain and seen like, okay, yes, we have all these like functional points, where we need to have dialogue. And and one thing that before honestly, I forget it, the one of the things that I really loved about Sludge Life and made the writing enjoyable to read was I think you can get through that entire game without reading any dialogue except for maybe like one piece from King, and that optionalness. That opt-in nature makes it a reward to get the text rather than parts of my game where it's like, bro, you're gonna sit down and listen, like you don't have a choice.
No, it's really true. I felt a lot of my inspiration for Sludge Life was like, of course, Terry and this world that we built together, but like how bus stops work and like some guy who needs to tell you some shit. It's the most boring shit. You can't even hear it. But the guy who's just saying the craziest shit, you're like, what? And suddenly you're in this one-way conversation. And the big thing for me was like, in a Zelda village, everyone like talks to you. I grew up in Jersey, man. Motherfuckers talk at you. Nobody talks to you ever until you're 20. You know, like it's just like, did you do this? I did this. Do you know who I am? What time is it? You know, like everything is on top of. You don't say hello, you just sort of get talked at. So Sludge Life was this really fun way to explore a bunch of information you don't have to partake in, but when you do, it's like more the way cities work. It's not the deepest layer of communication, but it's right there for you, which is kind of refreshing. Super urban. But yeah, there was another half of the question. I forgot where we were in the beginning. But yeah,
I don't remember.
I can see, what I like to. Okay, this is another reason I really like writing for games is I only had an excuse to write lyrics and prose well because that was what I was manifesting and peddling and being accountable for, But looking at games, there's all these aspects, like Disc Room is like just a log. It's like a diary, a science diary, if you will. But, for me, that was like, wow, what am I going to do here? This is interesting. I get to write within these parameters and it has to be cool. And I feel like, to me and the people I'm working with, and I think that is something that I'm definitely up for. So moving forward, if there is no writer, if there is a writer who's amazing, I want to help just the way I do with anything. Like I'm here to be fucking impressed, man. I want to get chills from this shit when we're done. And that takes a lot with games because you have to like bug test. There's like the level of remembering you made a thing you love with video games is far surpasses the song. Like when you mix a song, you're like sick of it, but you love it. You made it for a reason. That's why you're mixing it. With games, it's even like just between bugs and everything else. It's like it really asks you to hold space for the whole, and it's cool, man. I'm into it. It's a very different application of like critique and creativity. It's like a longer form than I've ever really had. The two working.
Do you find a lot of overlap between your audiences and games and for your music?
No, I think I'm just really grateful that people who make games listen to my art because I didn't know that was my people, but it's one of the kinds of my people. In the last 6 years, like I just am literally like, you know, I don't know, after school special, corny grateful for all these people that I've met who appreciate what I can do and allowed me to like add that to their shit, you know. So, but no, I don't think so. I think there's people that find it. I can't say that's easy to normalize that you used to like this rapper dude and then you turn on your PS4 and you think it's me. That's not really how that should work either.
Right.
So they get all the credit in the world if they did stumble upon me later. And I think that, you know, because of the nature of things and the fact that I kind of just was over touring all the time, you know, so I'm not flyering everyone's existence, and people change. Also, I found that like for my audience, like I inspired a lot of people in a time, but I was not the music they threw frisbees to. I was not the music they threw on at the barbecue necessarily. And I found that like they moved through time a bit away from whatever closeness they had to it. So you can see some people like, feels to me like Def Leppard, like those fans only like them more as the day goes on, like a fine port. But, you know, with my work, I felt like I see there are people who it's just as valuable, they keep up with it. But I also see that it's like I don't know, man. It's like a transition music. It's eccentric. It has its place in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit of I think it's better kept a secret than kept as like a hood ornament, you know? Yeah. Most people, I think it's very inspiring. This is just me trying to process my own fucking dried spaghetti in the colander at this point, you know? I'm very proud of it. It's beyond, redefines the word formative for myself. But I don't know what all this poetry and music and art became and all these people and what I am now. It's still become, you know, it's interesting to have an effect and know that the outcome wasn't traditional, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not Jay-Z or, you know, like, or whatever when I was a kid.
It means it's not something else, right?
Yeah.
Like it's its own thing. I mean, like you may lament that people don't never put it on at barbecues or whatever. My band, like, dude, it is my like go-to programming music. I don't know why.
So that's no, and that's, but you know, we're our kind of people, and like I think what I listen to when I'm not making music is the kind of shit that people like us listen. You know, I mean, it's so I had this really weird business dude a million fucking years ago when I first started doing music. I never forget this shit.
Weird business.
He ran Mush Records, and he, like, you know, he was full of advice, very smart, chemical engineer, and he talked like this. He really actually talked like that. And he said to me one day, he was like, "What do you want to be?" Because he was talking to me about getting a manager and going to LA. And he was like, "What do you want to be?" He was like, "Do you want to be your favorite director, or do you want to be your favorite director's favorite cinematographer?" And he was like, "Because all the directors know this cinematographer's name,
Right.
but no one who knows this director's name knows that cinematographer's name." You know, and so he asked me if I was making that choice, and I said, "I'm not making that choice." And I did. I don't know. It's what happened. You know, you become the context, like it's inside work, it's inspiring stuff. It doesn't, when you put things out in the world, you just really aren't in control of where their fence starts and stops.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
You're just not. So, and over time, even less so. You know, some fences shrink, some fences expand, some stay the same. So it's interesting to like, I think that it hits the kind of person I still am is the kind of person that my music impacts. And that's probably the most important thing to me at the end of the fucking day, you know? So, worst case scenario, I meet people I can make something with. You know?
The I I want to ask, when did the title G is for Job come out?
Oh, so I did GS for Deep. I
Yeah, I
think
know.
it's been a folder on my hard drive for a million years where I was like,
Really?
this title's kind of great. So also too, this is kind of good stuff that only my head knows, but I finished GS for Deep. As I was going to mix it, um, 6 of the songs on G is for Job came to me in a single night in a row in succession.
Wow.
So I do Beware, Little Things. So a lot of those singing songs were like pieces that were really sparse beats, and I sat with the SM58 and freestyled pretty much the entire song with pretty cogent lyrics. Stuff was just coming to me, and that process started my new process, which led eventually to Les's Orchestra. But the sitting there with those things, they came right after G is for Deep, literally like half of that material. And then what happened was I just was like, I don't know if the world wants more of what I'm doing, no matter what it is, whether it's singing or rapping. And I started to go through my thing in the context of time and space and all that shit. And so it just became this interesting space. And then I just found the luxury of exploring my differences continually without releasing them. So that's why it became a double album. Kind of trying things because I never produced, like everything I do is copied off of the brilliant people who sat close enough to me for the longest. And I was like, I can make a beat bad if they can make a beat good. And it's right next to me and they're my friend, so that's how I learned keyboards from Dax, production, and all that stuff. So really, video games, G is for Deep, G is for Job, really mark some kind of concerted effort to produce my own path. And it is because I couldn't before that. Like I really couldn't. I needed everyone. And I feel really humble and right on about the fact that the people that inspire me, that I stole knowledge and ability from, we made a lot of stuff together and we did things together. And that progression was very stairs versus escalator. Mm-hmm. So really built where I'm at. And then, like I was saying at the beginning of the talk, I'm sort of reacquainting with every day when I start being creative from scratch. Is my chassis on the floor or up on cinder blocks? Do I have a little bit of experience and credit? How do I feel? Can I just drill this and stay in the moment and have it go to the boring editing phase and the rewrite phase and come back and still be like, look at how I've kept all the water. You got to watch The Golden Child. First of all, it's one of the best Eddie Murphy movies. You won't be disappointed.
Okay. I'll give it a try.
There's claymation.
If there's claymation, I'm in then for sure.
Yeah, you're gonna love it. Yeah.
Do you consider Job a sequel at all? A follow up?
Yeah, it is. It's like it's a longer neck of that stuff. The next things I do are going to be pretty different, so they won't be more G's. But
no G is for Jeep.
G is for Jeebs. I think Jeebs. I think so. The next thing I'm doing is an ambient record, which I've always wanted to make. For people who want me to rap, you're fucked. But it's something I've always I wanted to have this peaceful experience that is editing something minimal and of an entirely different pace. I've got to make a bunch for games, but it's something I always wanted to do. So I'm working on that. And then after that, I'm making a pretty intense 90s rap SP 1200 Bomb Squad record. So, I'm treating myself. Some patience, some tranquility, and then I get to go batshit. And really, I just want to do things I haven't done in a way that I haven't regarded what it is to do. So a bit more learning, skill, execution, cohesion. and adding something to my stack that I haven't done already. Trying to not be a shadow.
But I
As
mean,
you get,
I
I
feel like
have to
that's
say,
you constantly, though. I mean, like there's definitely a
yeah,
doseness across the catalog, but like, I mean, bro, you don't sit down. Like it's always something
no,
new.
I mean, but that's it. You want to be a career artist, man. There's fucking, it is the shortest list on the planet. Who's a career artist? Who was dope at 20 and dead dope?
Right.
Who, like, it's not a lot of people. You can have a life outside of art. That's something else I'm working on now, is like
Mm-hmm.
squeezing life into productivity. You know what I mean? And I think that because for a lot of people out there, if you're doing art, whether you're self-taught or not, even if you have some professional training, it's a long road to convince yourself that you are this unflinching monolith of contributing to moving forward with creating an art and paying your rent, being a good person all in one blow. You know what I mean? It's not that. I imagine if you work like in the Air Force, you can really get off a shift and be like, I'm so good. I serve, I protect, I'm fucking the
Mm-hmm.
man, I make the money, everything's great, I'm killing it. There's so few days where you get off art and you feel that way. I was talking to my friend Andrew Broder, and we were actually having a really intense conversation about a lot of artists in Minneapolis got Me Too'd during this COVID thing, and they're people that we know but are not close to, and we were just talking about being men and how we come from this environment that's toxic, and we gave artists a pass over time. I'm not talking expressly about sexual predators, but in many ways I've given artists a pass for a less than likable behavior. And because they draw well or pontificate or do something, I'll let them be a dick in some
Mm-hmm.
manner. And I found that this was my year where I'm rolling all of that back. And you're a good person or you're not. I don't give a shit if you can do gold leaf on a ceiling. You know what I mean?
Right.
It won't impress me more than being a good person across circumstances. So anyway, we were just talking about how, like, for being a young musician, there's enough reasons, even when you're doing well and doing it right and being inspired, to quit every day, and how complicated it is to be a woman who is being constantly preyed upon and manipulated in the exact same environment. How, like, to the nth degree, it's
Mm-hmm.
actually, for me, going through my experience, if I'm totally honest, it's incomprehensible what it's like to navigate that and make it out intact or inspiring or inspired or okay or fucking wanting to do more. So there's enough. It's like doing it right, being an artist. There's a lot of reasons to quit. This again brings me back to the quality of your peers. You really need people, you know. Even if you don't know anyone and you live alone and you just start mailing people who you adore and telling them you adore them, I cold called half of my relationships in life. And they would be like, Dose, that's crazy. I don't really like your music, but my girlfriend does. Like, there's all kinds of, like, responses that go forward. It doesn't have to be, you're my favorite too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, like,
Yeah.
you have to also, and I've found that, like, let's say just 50% of the time I compliment someone, it doesn't feel right. They're like, that's a weird time to compliment me. Why are you telling me you like me that? You know what I mean?
Because I might not get another chance, bro.
Well, and it's just like, fuck it. I'm not going to do this every time I see you, but I am just realizing who you are, and I want you actually get this much. It's your box. It's like, I
Mm-hmm.
feel we hold that back willingly from one another for no good reason other than, I don't know. It's interesting. I see it a lot. I see some people not hold it back, and I see others do. And
Mm-hmm.
when you don't hold it back, doesn't matter who you are, you're up for an experience where the person is like, yeah, I'm gonna go pee, and they walk away. It's okay.
Do you think it's possible? I mean, it's definitely possible to breed a more comfortable environment for people who've had to, so when we're talking about that, like artist doubt, right?
Yeah.
That plagues people, right? It's, and when we're talking about women specifically, right? That and the extra trial that happens there, definitely that is an area that can become more comfortable, and then we can get into tackling the artist out after that. But is there something that can happen culturally that makes it more, for all artists to just like be more comfortable with their work and like remove that doubt and in a significant way?
I think it would be like, all right, this is a little meta, but for like all of humanity, it would be like not cutting all these art classes. It would be like art school not being a joke. Like, why are you going and getting a fine arts degree and not a graphic design degree? Why don't
Right.
these fucking schmucks sending all these artists out in the world get together and be like, how do we like micro macro this and make you get like like when you get a plug-in bundle and it's got all of it? Give these motherfuckers that degree. You're the ones who say what they constitute. It is not congressional legislature. Go in the Stanford butthole and rewrite. Like what's an art degree coming out of these schools on any level? Equip people differently. I think also just art is a little fucked. I'm just going to say from my experience in music, and I consider art to be just about everything, from pot holders to graphic novels to music, but with music, there's too much of a fashion show popularity contest for it to travel through time and not be that. So I'll just be honest, it's done. Like there's aspects of like something that is like drastically not fucking inclusive being more inclusive. You're fucked. We're all fucked. Art is about being hot. Art is about having pink hair. Like you're fucked. I think that for the music aspect, at least, the ones that go closer to the popularity sun, you lose some bandwidth to have anyone amazing ascend at the pace they deserve, that their art constitutes.
I mean, that's 100% true when we're talking about like money in art and careers in art. But I see this future that we're heading towards where it's like, with the music industry crumbling, shifting, whatever you want to call it, and the democratization of technology and the freedom of all of us to have publishing without any string holders. I think we're losing the professional artist and gaining a billion casual hobbyists, right?
Well, yeah, but man, I'm just gonna shoot myself in the neck. That's that folk art I want to see. Fuck it, let's go. Let's get Lil Toby and Vanessa and Karen and Marzipan and Ferdinand. Let's get them all making stuff, and it's like they'll be the judge of that generation, and resonance is resonance. I think like things like TikTok now, or like the copycat, like memeing and like there's like the humor in Xerox is booming right now. It's bigger than it's ever been. People enjoy it. It is funny sometimes. I see it myself and giggle, but I think I can't imagine all these people having this much ability to compose and create and throw away and start again and get somewhere in their bedrooms, and having time in their bedrooms is going to result in no breakout amazing individuals. You know what I mean? It's like, are you a fan of Buckminster Fuller?
I don't know anything. I don't know.
He's amazing. See, he's like the geodesic dome. That's like all him. He did the tetrahedron. He's a big physicist beyond brilliant mind. But what I love about him is he can really speak the essentials of this elaborate science to the layman in a way that is poetic and like memorable and really cool. And he had this vision of society where it was like, I'm misquoting this, Google it and get it right. But that all of society gets to do. They just don't necessarily have jobs because the most brilliant, outstanding members of society are respected, found, and given the opportunity to redefine everything. So his confidence was that if you care for all the individuals, you find all these Einsteins, Einsteinettes, and you put them together, and the leaps that they make allow no one to pump gas. This is all me really elaborately down his epiphany.
No.
But,
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
just that if we believed in our individuality and capacity, it's not keeping anyone down. It's like letting people loose, for a few people that can think beyond the pale. It's appreciating the extent of humanity. It's interesting to think about, There's ways to think about our potential that aren't gross.
Right. If we weren't all
Do you know what I
forced
mean?
to focus on staying alive all the time, we'd
And
have
just
the capacity.
money.
Yeah.
And just going from 99 to 100.
Yeah. To take away the competition between each other. And yep.
There's very little there, and I've understood that since I was a far lesser me. I remember just getting into being inspired, being a worker, whatever the fuck it is, being a young kid, being like, really, man? Just like work, jobs. Like I think I could think of some shit. I remember feeling like that shit was a boot on my chest. This perpetual, just minimum wage. I grew up poor. Like, you're like, really? What? $6? I mean, it's where people go to, like, I was in shitty neighborhoods. It's where you start selling drugs. It's where you make other choices. Some people don't always make the choice to rap, but there's a lot of other choices to make when your choice is like job, wage, or you beyond that. And I think, I'll tell you what, things like video games, graphic novels, fucking great albums, it gives people, it's literally the only highway sign that says get off here. If you really have nothing and you're growing up poor and you're in a neighborhood that's not that amazing and the people around you aren't into cool shit, you get your hands on a cool video game or a record from whomever, however, through the internet. It's actually literally something where you're like, wait a minute, this is two human beings. I could do this. All that shit. It's fucking, that's what I live for.
Yeah. It's, oh man. I hate to do it, but I think we got to wind down, and it is Thanksgiving.
It's turkey time.
It's turkey time. I don't know if you've eaten yet, but I got to let you go.
I'm ready. That. It's so great to see your face.
Dude, it's been so good. It's been too good.
Yeah, man.
Guys, I mean, is there anything you want to tell them other than listen to the album, play the games?
Stuff. Yeah, Samurai Gun 2 news and stuff coming soon. New Gang Beasts. Everything will go further. And then some secrets that I'm going to keep for right now.
Good.
But yeah, man.
Keep them. I like your surprises.
And play whatever you like. Yeah. Beat Spelunky 2 for me and tell me how it feels, because I'll never do it. Shout out to everyone out there beating it.
Jake says hi and then he misses you.
Yes, I miss you, Jake. I'm hugging you.
Yeah, guys. I mean, you guys have all seen the games this week. Follow Dose. Oh, congrats on getting your Twitter name.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened. It's really awesome. Yeah, it's really beautiful.
The guys, you've seen the games all this week. Sludge Life Disc Room. Oh man, I have so many. I still have like 10,000 more questions about the games. There's.
We'll do another one.
Yeah, we gotta. I'll say you're coming back next year for sure. Bruh. Okay.
I'm always down.
I'll let you go, guys. I'm gonna throw you on the thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow doing more work. You know how it goes every day. Goddamn. And Adam, dude, thank you so much. Really appreciate the time.
My pleasure, man. I love you, brother.
Love you too. Bye.